This is what HBAR and QNT investors have known all along and what you really need to get in your head ASAP. Now, chances are if you are a QNT and HBAR investor, you just don't know some of this stuff. It's definitely just below surface level. So I'm really excited to bring it to you today. And ultimately, guys, kind of what is the massive news? What is this massive looming factor that no one seems to be talking about? Well, guys, they're right because it's growth. Growth is the number one factor. And I know, so obvious. If you can see a project growing, isn't that good? Yes, but there's so many warning signs. The writing's on the walls, every which wall right now, even the roof, okay? And so what we're not doing is analyzing the data in front of our faces and going, okay, if we aren't as convicted as we are in the projects, we really need to do more research and now, because the bull market is going to be kicking off any damn moment, right? None of us really know when exactly, but it's definitely around the corner. So it's definitely time to knuckle down, look at the growth factors, and get into it a bit more. But of course, growth is nothing but a kind of result of one word, and that is disruption. Disruption technically is the more important thing to look at in general, because when we disrupt a market, Web 2, Web 3, or ideally both, we get growth. It's very simple, right? But disruption is a lot easier said than done, but we're going to dive into that a bit more today. Trust me, you're going to get a lot of value out of this video. Now, before we get into the real value, let me just quickly touch up on some of the most basic stuff for both of these projects, right? Just so everyone's up to speed. Right now, the market cap's about 1.2 billion on Quant, 1.6 billion for HBAR. We have a total of 81% of the tokens in circulation for QNT versus 63% for HBAR, and that's 2.8 million tokens left to come into circulation versus 18 billion, okay? Now, the 24-hour trading volume for both of these projects averaged over the last 12 months, so pretty much the bear market, right, is 25 million and 33, what you would expect in ratio with their market cap. Now, we're going to market dominance, of course, it's going to be a little bit higher for HBAR because it is a higher market cap. The reason I show this is because, well, it's not that important right now because we typically need it for price predictions, but it is a good way of just quickly looking at the project and just seeing how much of the current Web3 market it's actually disrupting, if you will, okay? Not to say that this actually is a reflection of that either, because this is just pretty much the total combined value in the project, essentially, right? We also have social dominance. This is an important metric to look at as well for those of you who want to get into a project, or at least check if they are up to speed or standards with promoting their cryptocurrency, or at least it's being talked about. So yes, or over double that for HBAR versus Quant. And the ROI in the last 3 years is actually 27x for QNT and a massive 71x for HBAR. But the prices right now are extremely good for investors. I'm not going to get into that in today's video. I just wanted to touch on the basics. Now, let's talk a little bit about why both of these projects are not just disruptive, extremely disruptive. Guys, this is integral. Again, the writing's on the damn walls, okay? So, obviously the Web 2 market is difficult to disrupt or penetrate, essentially, right? Because you have so many existing solutions. What are you offering that's different and how much better? And then you have to obviously tackle the market, get the people on board, right? Web 3, a bit easier, still definitely hard, but compared to Web 2, guys, it's a walk in the park, right? But disruption for both of these projects is easier. And let me explain to you why it is more than others, essentially. So QNT, the whole business model is an agnostic API, right? Which means you can connect to anything. Its Overledger tracks and manages all the data passing through the network, which means you can repurpose that and use it for whatever you want, right? Particularly for the maps. You also have it being designed to handle global economies. It's not just a smart contract on Ethereum. Guys, it's got its own network. That's just a settlement layer. There's a lot going on here. It's very fast and it's brilliantly designed, might I say. Over here for HBAR, this is the more interesting one because you don't really have that many competitors to what Quant is doing. You have a lot of competitors for what HBAR is doing, right? But it is the only hash graph. Think of it like this. If you had a room or a lineup in a police station, right, trying to find a suspect to a crime, and you had 100 or 99 people that were pink, and you had one green man, aren't you going to look at the green man first, go, hey, you're out of place, what are you doing? Let's look at you first. What's your alibi? That's pretty much HBAR. And once they look into their alibi, they go, holy crap. And they start looking at all these stats, right? Fair ordering of transactions allows it to do some really complex things, like obviously games, IoT-based things as well, and particularly supply chain stuff. You also have ABFT as well, which means that 33% of the network can actively be trying to take it down. Yes, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, and it won't crash it. It's also got a mirror node network as well that offers access to HBAR for anyone, right? And might I say, guys, it's not always about what you know. This is what they know. This is their tech. This is how experienced and I guess you could say smart they are, right? But in life, as we all know by now, it's also who you know. This is just, if not as more important, because disrupting a market, you can only do so with technology that is so much better before, okay, you have to start talking to people, okay? So I'm going to get into an example in just a second, right? But we have Gilbert over here, the CEO of Quant and founder. This guy is a one-stop shop for connections, right? So he authored the ISO blockchain standard 𝗡cie𝗿𝗡𝗩𝗡. And get this, he's the chair of the UK's committee on blockchain. It's huge stuff. This guy obviously has a whole bunch of other accolades and you quant investors know that, but yeah, this is some of the biggest stuff. But over here, HBAR is a little bit different. Rather than kind of weighing on one man's connections and ultimately his team, we have the governing council predominantly, okay? This is deep connections in global and regional markets, and they have access to the best and brightest minds. Now, I've spoken about HBAR and Quant enough so I don't have to explain all of what that means in this video. But again, if you don't know much about Quant or HBAR, do your research on the governing council and also Gilbert, and you'll be blown away. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about with disruption, okay? Because a lot of you are a little bit misconstrued into terms of like what that actually means for a project, okay? And this is going to break it down to you in two very important sections because you have to understand. Now, take the first example, right, with the technology, okay? So you might be a new layer 1 blockchain, or let's just say in Quant's example, again, there's no real competitors, but let's say in Quant's case, you're another interoperability network that's looking at Web 2, Web 3. All right, so if there's a current standard in place, you have to obviously have better technology than them, or at least on par. But I'll give you this conundrum. If, for example, right, you have a laptop and you're looking to buy one, or at least you're looking to buy a laptop, right? And you have an Apple computer in front of you and also a computer made by none other than yours truly, right? What are you going to pick? If the Apple had a Core i7, okay, it was 1 terabyte in storage and has 16 gigabytes of RAM, but mine, again, you don't know me, you've never heard of this small company or brand before, right? You come in here, it's a Core i9, better. It's 1.1 terabyte of storage, better. Same RAM, whatever. What are you going to pick? Now, chances are most of you are going to instantly pick Apple without a doubt, not even a question about it, okay? Because it's reliable, it's a brand, it's trusted. And that's like companies using blockchain technology. Again, we can't really use Quant's example right now, but for Hedera, layer 1 networks, what would want to make you use another blockchain? Well, it could be faster. It could do more things, but you already have a pretty good solution. This is where connections come in. This is where the real disruption happens, right? They are more important. Governments, right? Influential people, enterprises, any successful entrepreneur will say networking is crucial. And that is the reason why Quant and HBAR are such good projects. I'm telling you guys, do your research. It's fantastic, okay? So let's now touch on HBAR and kind of what it penetrates. Now, I've got these neon arrows with green. Green means that they adequately or do an adequate job of absorbing that sort of demand with the token, okay? And with both HBAR and Quant, they do a 100% job. There's no sort of loss of potential demand from any of their services, right? So with HBAR, on one side, the real life side of things, supply chain, audit logs, IoT. And it can do that because of the hash graph. Some data on the blockchain. Other blockchains can't do that sort of stuff unless those people make a new network, right? A private network, and they might not even connect to the public network. Therefore, there's no absorption. HBAR can absorb this sort of stuff, right? Private, so the Hedera consensus service also has private networks, but it must connect somewhat to the public network, therefore token absorption. Mirror node network as well, you can pretty much get all the data on HBAR and have your own sort of like use case for that via an API and just take the network stuff, but you have to pay for that, of course. And over here for like Web3 sort of stuff, right? You can log blockchain and blockchain transfers right through the HBAR token because, again, fair ordering of transactions. You also have the Hedera smart contract service and Hedera token service as well. Very complex, very customizable token standards, and that allows for things like gaming. Now, I add gaming because Hedera does it completely different to the rest, right? You can actually play proper games on Hedera or at least build them in the future, right? All this data essentially is pulled back into HBAR itself and added and stored on the public network, creating a network effect with 100% token absorption. So you think about all of this sort of stuff coming into HBAR and what happens? or you have all of this amazing data. Data is very expensive, right? This amazing network full of all this different information. And so you might get, other networks being mirror nodes or running the mirror node network, okay? I might have my own little private business, but because HBAR is processing stuff from an IoT company I want to use HBAR and attract that information. And that's what you can do. Really, really cool with the mirror network, and obviously network effects. The more people that add value to the public network, the more people want to use the public network. It's as simple as that. Now, on quant side of things don't ramp down at all, right? So Web 2, we got governments, the economy in general, central banks. You guys know the recent news that's happened. This supports that. Huge stuff. Again, quant is just probably even better than HBAR, of course, because they're more generalized across anything, okay? On the Web3 side, they can connect with HBAR, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and again, absorbs everything, right? It's literally can connect to anything. It doesn't need to be set up on the other end, really, okay? As long as it accepts API, right, endpoints, it can be absorbed back into the QNT token for these bad boys, right? This was a video I made on Quant Network itself and the Overledger network. This is kind of how Overledger looks on the topology view. And the top layer is the application layer, or where the maps or multi-chain applications can be built, essentially creating their own little economy, which will then leverage anything they want as long as they have access. So this is powerful as well. This doesn't just create network effects, this creates a very powerful form of embedding, okay? So network effects can be a lot stronger here. Maps built on QNT can have access to anything, guys. So again, 100%. Now let's wrap back to HBAR and talk a little bit for a second about what I meant before about the 99 green people and the 1 pink person, or vice versa, right? Well, this is HBAR again, right? The outlier. So hash graph versus blockchain versus DAG. I didn't cherry pick these. These are just some of the first ones that came to mind, okay? We're going to rank them in a few different aspects. First up, TPS. Right now, HBAR is pushing 1300 TPS. Algorand 6, Casper 3, and Cardano 3. Finality, absolute finality, by the way, right? So 5.6 seconds instant, which is a really good selling point for these guys. 10 seconds and actually 24 hours for Cardano. Over here, consensus, right? Hashgraph, proof of stake. This is what, again, would separate them from the rest. It's very, very different to a typical proof of stake. We have pure proof of stake, proof of work, by the way, they coined that, and Ouroboros proof of stake as well. Now, dApps on the network. This is also important to look at because this shows Web3 growth, okay? There's two sides to the coin. Now we have 78 dApps on here, 85 for and over 2,000. So I strongly believe Cardano is going to be a very Web3 focused blockchain. I'm very bullish on Cardano and a lot of these projects as well, might I say, but definitely HBAR stands out, right? That's the wow factor, okay? Now, we apply the WE test here, right? So WebAssembly compatible, instant finality, interoperable, and also infinitely scalable, as well as EVM. What do they rank? Well, for HBAR, it's 95%, Algorand 65, 45, and 45. I'm not going to go into the exact rankings. That could be for a different video. Yes, HBAR still wins, okay? And there's a lot of growth happening in 24 to 25. Now, again, I want to do the same thing for Quant, but there really is no other genuine competitors to this guy. It connects all siloed networks, aka islands, legacy systems, crypto, all the crypto, right? Enterprise, private networks, also anything that has an API endpoint. This can be social media applications. This can literally be anything. It can connect anything and it can run it efficiently, not slowing down, nada. Okay, it's fantastic sort of stuff. Now, with that said, guys, what would you pick? I want you to actually write down below what you would actually pick given the choice if you had to pick one. And I don't want any of the answers. I can't choose. You have to choose, all right? Would it be Quant or would it be HBAR, and why? I want to know. Now, with that all said, guys, thanks for watching right to the very end of this video. If you want to learn more about QNT, you know where to click, and also for HBAR on your right. With that said, guys, thank you so much again. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care all. Bye.